Hey guys, so I want to make a quick tutorial showing off how to use the CV inputs on the back of the Pro 2 here. So as you can see up here, I have this Korg SQ-1, which is this little CV gate sequencer. And I've plugged in the CV outputs. It has two CV outputs, and I plugged them into CV inputs 1 and 2 in the back of the Pro 2 here, which takes an 1/8 inch inputs. There's actually 4 CV inputs and 4 CV outputs. But for now, I'm just going to be showing off the basic concept with 2 of the CV inputs because I only have 2 CV outputs here. So I've initialized a basic patch here, and somebody told me a good shortcut for this. If you press latch and hold, it initializes a basic patch. And just to demonstrate how this works, I'm going to first modulate the cutoff frequency of the filter here. So this is what the filter sounds like. And just to get a little bit of theory out the way, normally you have this thing called a mod matrix here, which allows you to assign control signals to other destination control receiving modules. Basically what that means is that, for example, an LFO is something that sends out a control signal, which in the form of an oscillation at a slow rate. And for example, you can pick a destination as a cutoff frequency of the filter, which means that you can set the LFO to control the cutoff frequency of the filter so that it moves at a slow oscillation. And similarly, you have other kinds of modulation sources, such as the envelopes like the ADSR, and the Pro 2 even has its own built-in sequencer, which can be used as a modulation source. And then via the modulation matrix, you can assign all kinds of different sources to all kinds of different destinations. And destinations could be things like the cutoff frequency, the distortion, some of the character parameters, the delays. In fact, most of the parameters here can be modulated. So that's a really powerful feature of the synth. You have a very vast modulation matrix and modulation possibilities. But what's even cooler is that you can then expand this world outside using external gear that interfaces with CV, which is control voltage. And internally, everything is done digitally, but these ports here allow you to control other modules or other gear with the Pro 2, and vice versa. You can use other gear to control stuff in the Pro 2. And all this stuff is available in the mod matrix as these CV parameters. So just as an example here, we have a basic CV sequencer, and I've set it to a mode where each 8 step is dedicated to a specific CV output. So the top 8 steps here will go out the yellow wire, and the bottom 8 steps will go out the red wire. And I have these little knobs here, which you can probably not see on the camera, but you can set a different value for each step. And as the sequencer goes, it'll output those values. Then those values are fed into the Pro 2 here on the CV inputs 1 and 2. And then I can pick those as modulation sources in the mod matrix. So let's go ahead and do that. In my mod matrix here, I can do assign source. I'm going to pick my first slot. And then as I scroll through the different modulation sources, eventually you come across these ones called CV input 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to pick source CV input 1, which is my yellow wire here. And as a destination, one shortcut is you can hold destination and then turn the knob you want to be the destination. So if I turn my cutoff frequency here, so now I've assigned CV input 1 to the filter cutoff frequency of the filter 1 here. And finally, I'm just going to increase the amount and lower the cutoff frequency. So now when I play the sequencer, the values up here will control the filter of the Pro 2. So if I hit play on the sequencer, right now all my knobs are set to minimum value. And I'm just going to disable these last 4 steps. We're just going to have these 4 steps here for simplicity. So if I increase this knob here, you can hear every time it gets to that knob, now that it has a high value, it effectively opens the filter at that step. So I can increase these other values as well. increase the resonance to enhance the effect. I can add more steps. And I can use a very similar approach to assign my second CV, which is my second row of knobs here. And I can go back into my matrix, select another modulation matrix slot, and then again scroll through my sources until I get to CV input 2, which is where I plugged in my red wire here. And for the destination for that, for example, there's all kinds of different things, but for example, let's pick distortion. And I'm gonna turn off some of these steps. So now you can hear when it gets to this step here, the distortion is activated because I've turned up this knob. Of course, I can go and pick different destinations if I want to. For example, the hack. Just going to turn on some more oscillators here. Try changing the destination to control the wave shape of all the oscillators. Right, so hopefully that gives you a good idea of the kinds of stuff you can do. Obviously, I've only just scratched the surface here. You can imagine having a whole slew of CV controls. Right now, I just have this simple 2-channel 8-step sequencer, but you can imagine having a full suite of eurorack modules or any other gear that produces CV. And you can basically think of being able to control any 4 parameters on this synth with any external gear you have that has CV control. And in addition, you can control stuff, outboard gear using the Pro 2. So the Pro 2 is a really cool synth for interfacing with a eurorack module, for example, especially since these jacks here are actually 1/8" jacks. So it interfaces directly with eurorack stuff, which is kind of cool. I plan to get a eurorack box pretty soon, so I might do another demo in the future, more fully utilizing all these inputs once I have a more elaborate piece of CV gear. Right now I just have this little box, but this was just an intro to get you familiar with the kinds of stuff you can do. But you can imagine you can explode this kinds of stuff to all kinds of different possibilities. All right, thanks so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to keep up to date with other videos, and leave me a like if you like this kind of stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one.